Today we get to jump into our very first offseason with the South City Triceratops Walk-On Dynasty. We are obviously going in with the 10 points we started with because we did not earn any more points throughout the season. Obviously this season was brutal to watch. We did not win a single game and we were shut out on 3 separate occasions, once by number 1 Georgia, so I'm not upset by that one. But then we were also shut out against Northern Illinois and LSU. The LSU one I'm not too upset about. The Northern Illinois one kind of shocked me, but following the LSU game, I would switch quarterbacks to Josh Holland, and for some reason, he ran that quick pass system a lot better than Tim Willis. We scored 42 points against Old Dominion, 24 against Tennessee, and then probably his worst performance was against Eastern Michigan, where we only scored 18 points on offense. However, we will finally get to add some help to this team. I don't really know how much better this team is going to be next season, but I'm hoping getting a consistent quarterback would really help out this offense, even if our receivers are going to drop about half the passes. But now let's start to wrap up this season officially. The MAC championship goes to Ball State. The Big 12 championship goes to an undefeated Oklahoma team. The CUSA championship goes to Southern Miss. The SEC goes to Georgia, also finished undefeated. Air Force wins the Mountain West. Virginia Tech wins the ACC. Washington wins the Pac-12. And Iowa wins the Big 10 over Michigan, who was undefeated going in. And it looks like they fell to number 9. They may miss the playoffs now. The way the playoffs are going to work in this dynasty is the top 8 teams here in the college football playoff rankings will be getting into the playoffs. And no, I won't be changing them, even if there is something really weird looking, like Michigan actually falling out and Army staying in, even though they're 9-2. That's just what the game has decided. So these will be the 8 teams going to the playoffs: Georgia, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Penn State, California, Washington, Army, and Texas. The Heisman winner goes to the running back at Oklahoma. Let's see what kind of season he had this year. 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns. I really feel like that is not enough to win the Heisman Trophy. What kind of stats did this quarterback put up? 23 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, and then he ran in for another 14? I don't think this guy should have won the Heisman over that, but okay, OU gets a Heisman Trophy again. The quarterback at Georgia, Ronnie Bryant, takes home the Maxwell Award. The Walter Camp Award goes to Ronnie Fry, the quarterback at Penn State. The Bednarik Award goes to Mike Thomas, an outside linebacker at Michigan. And the Nagurski Award goes to the same exact player. The O'Brien Award also goes to Ronnie Bryant. The Walker Award goes to Avery Williams, the running back at Georgia. The Bolitnikov goes to Charles Mitchell, a wide receiver at Notre Dame. The Mackey Award goes to the tight end at Louisiana Tech. The Outland Award goes to John Roberts, a center at Georgia. The Remington also goes to the same player. The Lombardi Award goes to a defensive end at Oregon. The Butkus Award also goes to Mike Thomas. That's 3 awards he's won now. The Thorpe Award goes to a defensive back at Tulane. And then the Groza Award goes to the kicker at Florida State. And the Guy Award goes to Omar Harris, the punter at Texas A&M. And then finally the Jet Award goes to Andre Fitzpatrick, a wide receiver at Georgia. And the college football playoffs went as follows. Georgia defeated Texas 49-10. Penn State shut out California 42-0. Oklahoma got upset in the first round 21-28 against 9-2 Army. And then Texas A&M lost to Washington 14-21. And the next round, Georgia won against Penn State 37-21. And then Army lost to Washington 21-31. The national championship would be Georgia against Washington, which Georgia won 31-28, so they finished 16-0 and are your new national champions. But we finally now get to look at the season stats for this year, and this is not going to be pretty. Remember, Josh Holland was only the starter for the last 3 games and still ended up throwing for more yards than quarterback Tim Willis. He also threw for 7 touchdowns, Willis threw for 3, and they both had double-digit interceptions. Holland threw 10, Willis threw 17, and then Ryan Hill even came in and threw 3 interceptions and no touchdowns. Running the ball was really not an option that much this year. Our leading rusher is a defensive back with Joe Austin, 19 carries, 139 yards and a touchdown. Jarvis Nelson got 71 yards and a score. Josh Holland found the end zone twice. Ryan Hill found the end zone once. Our main running back through most of the season was fullback Dave Wade, who finishes with 48 carries for 5 yards. That is 0.1 yards a carry, and I think it's just because I can't show any lower than that, so it's just rounding up. He did find the end zone one time though. Our actual starting running back Daniel Clark was injured most of the year, but he finishes with 23 carries for -2 yards, but did find the end zone once. And then Tim Willis took a ton of sacks. He finishes with 41 carries for negative 95 yards, but did find the end zone one time. Our leader in receptions is wide receiver Clint Barnes with 41 and 553 yards and 2 touchdowns, but Dustin Daniels got the most yards with 619. He found the end zone once. Manny Hughes, our tight end, never found the end zone, but did catch 35 passes for 400 yards. Reggie Davis got 29 for 392 and 2 touchdowns. Lonnie Whitfield got a couple touchdowns, but Jeremy King caught the most touchdowns on the team with 10 receptions for 91 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't think anyone else down here scored a touchdown, and they did not. Our right tackle Joe Young apparently led up the most sacks this season, but I think it's because anytime I rolled out, I tend to roll out to the right side. Middle linebacker Justin Bush led the team in tackles with 67 of them. What about tackles for loss? That goes to Mike Snyder, the defensive end, who also led the team in sacks with 5. Brian Newton, an outside linebacker, ended up with 3, and then the following players got 1 sack. Defensive tackle Richard Booth, defensive tackle Nick Mangum, defensive tackle Cedric Hemphill, strong safety Justin King, middle linebacker Justin Bush, and defensive end Bryce Williams. No one on defense got more than 1 interception this year. Dan Cooper came away with 1, so did Bo Hicks, Lonnie Whitfield, Jarvis Nelson, Joe Austin, Paul Patterson, and Brian Newton. We did not kick a lot of field goals this year, but Sean Smith did go 5 of 5. The main reason I feel like we didn't kick a lot of field goals is because his range is about right there, 42. I believe that kick barely went over the bottom crossbar. Now we can take a look at stats around the country. Ronnie Bryant, the quarterback at Georgia, had the highest QBR this year. Completing the most passes is Tyson Bentley at Virginia Tech. The most attempts is Dan Thurman at Texas Tech. The most yards goes to Ronnie Bryant with 3,600. Touchdowns also goes to Bryant with 46 of them. I don't know how that running back at Oklahoma won the Heisman when this guy's putting up numbers like that. Leading the nation in interceptions goes to Tim Robinson, the quarterback at Kent State. Had I left Tim Willis in the entire season, probably easily beats that. The most accurate passer this year was the quarterback at Oklahoma, Sam Wright. The least accurate passer, I'm surprised we are not up here, but Tim Robinson is apparently a horrible quarterback. The most rushing attempts in the country goes to Howard Mills, the running back at Mid-Tennessee. The most yards goes to William Nugent, the running back at Washington. Touchdowns goes to Avery Williams, the running back at Georgia. I'm really just, the more I get into this, I am more and more confused how that running back in Oklahoma ended up with a Heisman Trophy. Let's see who led the nation in fumbles though. Is that going to be us at all? No, that is Sam Wright at Oklahoma and Chaz Clark, the running back at Purdue. The most receptions this season goes to Kyle Wade, a receiver at Ball State. The most yards also goes to Kyle Wade. And touchdowns goes to Marquise Brewster, the wide receiver at Georgia. Not really a stat you want to lead the country in, but Clint Barnes apparently dropped the most passes this year with 13, and Dustin Daniels finished 4th with a total of 10 drops. Leading the nation in tackles is an outside linebacker at Boise State. In solo tackles, yeah, I kind of figured that. The simulation seems to be pretty broken towards solo tackles. I don't really know why, but it's like that even in my Oklahoma dynasty, where you have guys that lead the nation in tackles, but then only have 43 solo tackles. And then obviously our guys like Greg Johnson, 66 tackles, 63 of them solo. What about tackles for loss? That goes to Mike Wright, a defensive end at Georgia. Sacks goes to Bo Douglas, a defensive end at Cincinnati, and Brandon Allen, a defensive end at Oregon. Interceptions is going to go to Ricky McDaniel at Colorado State with 10 picks on the season. Trey Evans, a kicker at Florida, made the most field goals this year. The most attempts also goes to Trey Evans, but the most accurate kicker is going to go to Chad Hopkins, a kicker at Boise State, who went 14 for 14, but somehow only got 99%. Not real sure on that one. But now that all that is taken care of, we can finally jump into the actual off-season part of this video. And I imagine when I click end of season here, it's going to show that we get fired. Don't worry, the series is not over. I will just create a new coach and probably name him the same thing and just work from there. So if you can ignore all of these years before here, this is when they were back to being Louisiana Lafayette. This is obviously our first season as South City. We go 0-12 here, and not surprising, we do get fired because the target wins per year was 5. But like I said, we're going to recreate a coach and move on. And in case you're curious, Leonard Knight will be taking the offensive coordinator job at West Virginia. And now we have head coach Leonard Knight II. We are probably still not going to hit that 5 target wins per year this season, but we do get to keep control of the team. Now that we can take care of the rest of the offseason here, let's go into players leaving and see if anyone's actually trying to leave after season 1. and the entire list is blank. You do have to remember most of this team is true freshmen. Now in the next stage, we do have the transfer request, and here's how I'm going to handle this. These guys are going to be worth 0 points. These guys do not matter to our offseason point total, and the reason is because if they sat there and watched us lose 12 games this season in pretty much blowout fashion, who am I to deny them to come here and sit a year and waste a year of eligibility, because I can't automatically just make them play. So if you look at transfer request here, we do get a few players: an outside linebacker from Alabama that wants to play, a defensive back from Army, a center from North Texas, a safety from Texas A&M, and a defensive back from Virginia Tech. So we are going to take all of these players, but obviously I can't use them this season. But I am excited to see Michael Starks here. That is a really solid player for us. If you don't remember how many points we have or how the point system works, it is back up on the screen right now so you can read it over one more time. But we come into this recruiting cycle with 10 points to use, and I think I know the players that I'm going to keep. It does suck that I won't be able to keep all of the players that committed to us. Once I get into the cut player stage, I will be cutting any extra true freshmen that committed to us that I'm not going to keep. But with the 10 points we have, I'm going to keep outside linebacker Isaiah Sims, so that is worth 2 points. We're going to keep running back Jack Overrocker for another 2 points because he is a 2-star recruit. We're going to keep defensive tackle Jalen Shelley here at a 65 overall, so that is another point. So we have 5 points left, and we will use that on quarterback Eli Cox. In case anyone was curious on how the rest of the recruiting cycle played out, Georgia, who just won the national championship, also lands the #1 recruiting class. Oklahoma is number 2, USC is number 3, A&M is 4, Penn State is 5, California is 6, Michigan 7, Baylor's 8, UCLA is 9, and Tennessee is 10. The next thing we have to do is position changes. Now there are a few players that I want to look at here and see if they will be better at other spots on the team. The first player up is quarterback Ryan Hill. He is a 40 overall quarterback right now, and if we move him over to running back, he becomes a 56 overall, so we're actually going to go ahead and do that. The next player I'm going to move is safety Lonnie Whitfield. He made a few plays on defense last season, but he is a 49 overall. If we move him over to receiver, he immediately becomes a 60 overall. So that is exactly what we're going to do. It will give us a new walk-on player at free safety most likely, but let's go see. At wide receiver, he is now the best player at wide receiver, and his catching rating was a 75, and it still is. So he immediately has the best hands on the team. And looking through the rest of the roster, Brian Edwards is here, a redshirt freshman, but it doesn't look like we actually recruited him, so he may have transferred in before our first season and I just didn't notice it. So I guess we will get to keep him since I made the rule about transfers, but we get a 65 overall corner, so I guess I shouldn't complain too much. But that is going to be all the position changes we make, so now we get to move on to the next stage, which will be training results. This part of the offseason is my absolute favorite, but this season I'm not going to get too excited because I don't expect these guys to become superstar players, obviously. Starting at quarterback, Tim Willis and Josh Holland both got a little bit better with +2 to their overall. Let's go check out throw power and throw accuracy here. And throw power remains the same for both players, but they both get a little more accurate. Tim Willis is up to a 63 and Holland's up to a 60. At running back, Ryan Hill now up to a 58 overall. Scott Mann's up to a 49. Brian Moore is up to a 45. And Daniel Clark does not improve at all, most likely because he was injured most of last season. Dave Wade got a little bit better at fullback, +2 to his overall with 73 speed. I don't expect you to have to play running back this year now that we have Jack Overrocker, but if you have to, at least you got a little bit faster. At wide receiver, not really what I wanted to see from Lonnie Whitfield. He loses 3 overall points as we move him. Let's see if his catching goes down at all. He lost 3 to catching and is still the best hands on the team. At tight end, Manny Hughes got a little bit better, +6 to his overall, 6 to awareness. Let's see if his catching or route running got any better. His catching goes up to a 65, +6. That is great to see. Now let's go over the offensive line. We have 2 42 overalls at left tackle. At left guard's a 46. Center is a 63, but I think Mark Whitaker is a transfer, so he won't play this season. So it'll most likely be Santonio Welsh, who is a 50 overall still. At right guard, we now have a 47 overall, and at right tackle, we have a 45 overall. Not great to see that Mike Snyder actually went down in overall. He's down to a 48 overall, lost 3 to his strength, didn't gain any awareness. What about block shedding? Did he lose any of that? Because that would be pretty massive here. Is it really that far back? Yes, it is. He lost 3 to that. He's still the best block shedder here at left end, though. At right end, it looks like Bryce Williams got +2, so he is now at 45 overall. At defensive tackle, Mickey Williams got +1, Nick Mangum got +2, Hemphill lost 4, and Booth lost 2. At left outside linebacker, we won't get to use Michael Starks this season, but he does get +2 to his overall. Dan Cooper gets +1, Aaron Banks gets +4, and then Nick Mann remains a 40 overall. At middle linebacker, Justin Bush remains a 47 overall. Bo Hicks gets +1 to become a 47 overall, and he's a little bit faster. Let's check out some of these other ratings and see if maybe we have a legit competition here at middle linebacker. Tackling's about the same. Hit power goes to Justin Bush. Power move goes to Bo Hicks, and finesse moves goes to Justin Bush. Block shedding still goes to Bush here. Pursuit still goes to Bush. Play rec actually goes to Bo Hicks. So maybe we'll give them both some playing time. Their zone coverage is both awful, same as their man coverage. Their press got +12 though. Release is a 66. And yeah, we may have a small competition here at middle linebacker. Right outside linebacker, Brian Newton gets +2 to his overall, up to a 72 speed. Let's see what went up with him. Can we get some higher play rec here? Because you may get to play left outside linebacker, because I did bring in Isaiah Sims, who I believe is a right outside linebacker, and he gets +5 to his play rec. Defensive back Brian Edwards, who once again I am assuming transferred in before our first season, gets to go up to a 68 overall. Jarvis Nelson goes up to a 48. Joe Austin goes to a 46, so he actually loses 1 overall point. Can we see what their actual coverage ratings are going to be this season though? Brian Edwards goes up to 75 catching, so maybe he could possibly have played receiver, or I can sub him in sometimes, but he is going to be probably one of the better players in our secondary. But I want to go over here and see what their man and zone coverage is. 74 man, 78 zone. So we finally have someone that might at least be able to cover some bad receivers. Free safety Greg Johnson loses 2 overall points and 2 to speed. That is not great. What about play rec and awareness and stuff like that? Awareness seemed to have stayed the same. Tackling, he lost 3. That's not good. Block shedding lost 4. Pursuit lost 1. Play rec lost 1. Okay, so maybe this season, if I can actually win a game or 2, I can start really scouting the secondary. What about strong safety? Scott Flanagan, I believe, is a transfer, so he won't play this year. Justin King falls 1 overall to a 52, and Danny Turner gets +2 to go to a 46. Our kicker, Sean Smith, gets +3 to his overall. That seems to mostly be in awareness, though. We'll scroll all the way to the end here, and he does get 3 to kick power and 2 to kick accuracy, actually. Now at the cut player stage, I have already released everyone that was going to be a true freshman besides the guys we elected to keep, and Eli Cox and Jack Overrocker are immediately the 2 best players on the team. Isaiah Sims will be the 3rd best that takes the field this year because Starks can't play. Then you have Brian Edwards, and then we have defensive tackle Jalen Shelley. That is going to wrap up this off-season video though, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure if in the next season I'm going to use the recruit mod. I'll think it over the next couple days or so, but in the next episode, that will be the entire season 2 team preview, where we will go over the recruiting board, who we are going to start on the depth chart, and our schedule. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will talk to you next time.